And did you memorize all of these?
I had my discursive like pretty down pat and one of my imaginatives because mostly just because I thought they were good. But my persuasive, obviously, like you say, was just an adaptation of my discursive. And then the other imaginative, I had like the paragraphs of what it would be about, but obviously not word for word. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah, no, that sounds great. And what about your essays? You were saying before you prepared all of those. Had you memorized all of those, and had you memorized an introduction, a base introduction for each of the essays?
I had kind of like a structure that I would follow for my introduction, but obviously they mostly care about you answering the question, and I think it's important to identify it as soon as you hit the ground running, because yeah, otherwise they'll know that you've just writing something memorized.
Mhm.
But then in terms of like my quotes and analyses,
Yeah,
um,
funny, wasn't it? Analysis.
um, yeah, I did have those pretty much memorized just because like in the stress of an exam, you want to know exactly what quote, what techniques they're being used, why they're using them, and like
Mm.
then having the time to relate that back to the question, which obviously isn't memorized, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And one thing I think is always important to memorize, which really doesn't need to change very often, is like the start of the sentence. Were you memorizing those kind of bits and how you would flow into the next sentence, how you transition with those kind of terms? Because I find that would save a
Yeah,
student a
yeah.
lot of time.
Yeah, definitely like the topic sentence of your paragraph linking to whatever you're talking about, I think was a good thing to memorize as well because it just gives you an idea of like exactly what you're going to talk about and then following through with the question throughout it is
Mhm.
helpful.
And even more specifically within the body, things like a moreover or a however, like did you still know what the next word that was going to begin the next sentence was going to be?
Yeah, kind of. So that I knew that it was going to flow nicely, and yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to touch on everything that I needed to.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think that's a really good strategy. But as you say, you clearly have the right mindset of making sure you answer the question from the get-go. But I think what a lot of students, will should take away from what you said is you did have a structure, at least
Yeah,
that you were applying the questions to. So you kind of had practiced implementing this same structure. It was probably the same amount of sentences each time. I'm just guessing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and then that gave you a framework so that you weren't spending way too much time thinking about, oh, what's the next word that I say? What do I do in the next sentence? I think it's really
yeah,
important to know what each sentence is going to do and then to be flexible with the precise wording. That's often what I say. Does that kind
yeah,
of resonate with your approach?
yeah, for sure, exactly. Yeah.
What about short answers, just to finish up on the English side? How'd you go about preparing for that?
I feel like you just got to do so many practice questions. I was lucky that art analysis and English analysis kind of crosses over a little bit in terms of how you go about it. But yeah, I think you just got to expose yourself to as many questions as possible. And I know I had a few key phrases for obviously it's on human experiences. So like if I knew that I'd seen a lot of questions on loneliness, I would have a kind of mini thesis on what I would talk about and apply that to all the different like overarching topics that are quite general.
Mm. So practice is key, really, there.
Yeah.